أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، إنه خير ناصر ومعين. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. طب القلوب ودوائها ونور أبصارها، وعلى أهل بيته الذين ذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. يقول الله عز وجل في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فليضحكوا قليلا وليبكوا كثيرا جزاء بما كانوا يكسبون. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. For the love of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, with the loudest of our voices, sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. For the love of Imam Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, with the loudest of our voices, sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. For the purification of our hearts and hastening of the reappearance of our beloved, the 12th Imam, with the loudest of our voices, sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Once again, my dear brothers and sisters, lovers and the followers of Ahl al-Bayt, we thank Almighty Allah for gracing us with this second night to continue seeking the understanding of our faith with the sole aim of building solid relationship with our beloved and merciful Creator, Almighty Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Last night, if you recall very well, we looked at how unique our beloved Imams are when it comes to the main highlights of their lives. And towards the end of our last night Majlis, I first and foremost encourage myself and encourage each and every one of us, lovers and the followers of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh, to build powerful relationship with at least the 15 munajat of our beloved Imam. Because no doubt, those 15 munajat, which is oftenly translated the whispers prayers, they are solutions, if not to all of the challenges I and you faced in our lives, but to some of the challenges we faced in our lives. And if you recall very well, I emphasize on the importance of appreciating this great legacy of our beloved Sayyid al-Sajideen. The verse I've just quoted from the Quran is Quran 9, Surah At-Tawbah, verse number 82. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in this beautiful verse mentions, فَلْيَدْحَقُوا قَلِيلًا وَلْيَبْقُوا كَثِيرًا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Let them laugh little and cry a lot. جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. It is a reward for what they used to do. Now, departing from this beautiful verse, our topic of tonight is in a form of a question. And this is the question. Is the tears or the crying of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, an emotional scream or a human revolution? Examination of tonight, very interesting examination, will be of the following 3 stages. The first stage will ask a question. Is crying a sign of being civilized or a sign of weakness? Because we cry, most especially in the holy month of Muharram and the holy month of Safar, and during the shahadat of our beloved Imams, and that of Sayyidah Fatima and Sayyidah Zainab alayhim as-salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, salli ala Muhammad wal. So first stage, we ask a question. Are these tears or crying a sign of being civilized or a sign of weakness in a person? Second stage of the examination, we'll look at the relationship between revolutionary Karbala and emotional Karbala. Emotional Karbala is we cry. Revolutionary Karbala, we don't necessarily cry, but we try to take some practical lessons from Karbala. What's the relationship between the two? We'll inshallah discuss it. And then the last stage of my examination of tonight will be to look at actual tears and emotional tears in the life of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen. I and you know very well, if there is one person who cried a lot than any other person over the tragedy of Karbala, is Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen. Imam alayhi salam not only lamented, he mourned over the butchering of his father for a period of 20 years. So it's important I and you appreciate the entire concept of buka, the concept of crying, the concept of shedding tears. Because in this day and age, there are people out there, either internally or externally. When I say internally, meaning some of those who claim to be Shias, or some Shias if you like. Externally, not necessarily Shias, who, when they see us crying, when they see us shedding tears, some laugh. Some don't just laugh. They say, why are you too negative in your life? Why too much sadness? Why too much crying? So I thought it's crucial we appreciate the entire concept of tears, the entire concept of crying, so that when I cry over the tragedies of Ahlul Bayt, most especially over the tragedy of Karbala, I know that I am doing nothing wrong, but rather I am doing an act of worship. So let's look at first stage of the examination. Tawajjuh, my dear brothers and sisters, kindly pay attention. I would like you to understand what I'm trying to put across tonight. So I request your maximum attention, inshallah. Our first stage of the night is a question. I repeat the question. Is crying a sign of being civilized or a sign of weakness in us or in anyone who cries? Here, I'm not talking of only crying for Ahlul Bayt. I'm talking of crying in general. To answer this question, I would like to mention 3 things. Very simple. The first thing to answer this first question, whether crying is a sign of being civilized or a sign of weakness, is to look at the position of crying within human nature. We are human beings created by Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Allah created us in such a way that He gave us soul. Some scholars, when they examine soul, they said there are two types of souls. We have nafs al-kulliyah, we have nafs al-insaniyah. We have a general soul and we have a human soul. What is general soul? Can you pay attention to this? General soul simply means each and every creature of Allah, whether insan or non-insan, has a form of soul. Look at Quran. Allah Ta'ala beautifully discusses this in Tafsir al-Mizan. Allah says, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحًا. That every living thing or everything we created glorifies Allah. Meaning whatever we created says Subhanallah. The only difference is that we human beings do not understand how other creatures of Allah worship and praise Allah. So Allah Ta'ala, when He looks at this, He said everything says Subhanallah. Everything says Alhamdulillah. Although we don't understand, He said the fact that Quran says everything glorifies Allah simply means everything has some sort of language. And He says the fact that everything has some sort of language simply means everything has some form of life. And the fact that everything has a form of life simply means everything has a form of soul. Let me give you a simple example to understand it better from Ahlul Bayt. You see, when Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala created trees, shajari, trees are in the form of standing, isn't it? That is qiyam. That's how trees worship Allah. When Allah, excuse my word, created animals like livestock, sheep, cow, camel, they are created like this in the form of ruku'ah. That's how they worship Allah. Then when Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created mountains, sitting in the form of julus. That's how mountains, stones, pebbles worship Allah. And when Allah created insects like mosquitoes and the rest, they are created like this in the form of sujood. That is how they worship Allah. But when Allah created insan, when you want to do qiyam, you do qiyam. When you want to do ruku, you do ruku. When you want to do sujood, you do sujood. That is why Allah said, وَلَكَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. Ma salli ala Mohammed wa ali Mohammed. Said, indeed, we honor the children of Adam. Know your qadr, know your value. Each and everything glorifies and worships Allah. And hence, the first type of soul, they call it general soul. What is general soul? Meaning every living thing has a form of soul. Let's go to the second type of soul. I don't want you to get confused. I want you just to follow me. It's a human soul. You see, human soul is unique compared to any other type of souls. What is unique about your soul? And what is unique about my soul? Some, they don't call it soul. They call it mind. Some, they don't differentiate between mind and soul. They said this mind of an insan, it has at least 3 powers. The power to memorize or remember. You see, sometimes you think you remember. Sometimes you forget. You see this boy coming in, you remember. Your mind has the power to remember. The second power of our mind, which any other creature cannot have it, is that We have the power to do what? To plan. You can plan easily. Before coming to this place, you plan. Animals cannot plan like that. Trees cannot plan like that. And the third power this mind has, is what? The power to adapt to a situation. You see, Allah created us. He brought us to this world. When we came to this world, we are placed in an environment. But we easily adapt to this environment. That is the power given to us by Almighty Allah. Tabarak. Now question. What makes us adapt to environment? Emotion. Emotion. Without emotion, no one will adapt to any environment. And what is behind the emotion, or typical example of emotion, is tears. If you want to see the power of emotion, see when tears overflows from the eyes of anyone. So therefore, on the first level, tears or crying is not a sign of being weak. It's a sign of being civilized. It's a sign that your emotions are functional. It's a sign that you are healthy, and I'll discuss more in going forward. Here, I'm not talking of only crying for our little bit, crying for anything. It is your emotions responding. The second thing I want to mention in answering the first question, whether it is civilized or weakness, is the types of tears. There are 3 types of tears, crying. Those who are medical doctors will appreciate this more. The first one, they call it ad-dama'atul asasi, basic tears. Every human being, some say even animals, they have what is called basic tears. What is basic tears? Sometimes it happens you don't know. It is something inside which has protein, and it cleans microbes. So there is a lot of water in your eyes. Although the water is not overflowing here, it is cleaning the microbes in your eyes. This is what they call basic tears. Second form of tears, they call it reflective tears. Ad-dama'atul in'iqasi in Arabic. What is reflective tears? It's when your eyes come in contact with something unpleasant, like onion, like dust. Whether you like it or not, tears will come. You've got this very chilly onion, very hard, strong one. Maybe a woman is cutting it in the kitchen, or somebody is cutting it. Automatically, you start what? Crying. Sometimes chili, strong chili. You enter a house, maybe a woman is cooking kukupaka or whatever. When there's too much chili inside, what happened? Tears start overflowing from your eye. This is what they call reflective tears. The third form of tears is what I'm talking about. Emotional tears. What is emotional tears? It's when you are faced with a challenge in life. Or you are faced with a situation. It may be a good situation. It may be a bad situation. Because we have tears of joy sometimes. You know what happened? Your body will respond to that situation. When the body responds to that situation, it transfers it to your emotions, and suddenly the tears begin to overflow. This is good. Don't suppress tears. When you are going through rough patches in life, if you are to cry, let it flow. If you don't allow it to flow, sometimes it may affect you psychologically. Sit somewhere and cry. Today in the world, we have some places, universities, where there are special rooms for those who are too much depressed. They said, sit in this room, you cry. Because crying is a form of healing. Allahu Akbar. That is why on a third level, to answer whether crying is a sign of being civilized or weakness, is to say what? It helps also with mental health related issues. it calms the nerves. You know, sometimes too much overwhelmed life. Problem right, problem left, problem here, problem here. Wallah, when you have a solid tears, you feel soft in your heart. It causes sukoon and tranquility in the heart of a person. And so therefore, crying is a sign of being civilized. It's not a sign of weakness. That's number one. Let's go number two. The relationship between revolutionary Karbala and emotional Karbala. I gave you the difference between the two earlier on. Emotional Karbala is what? Whenever I remember Karbala, I cry. Only hearing the name of Hussein, because I know the haqiqah of Hussein, I cry. Just hearing the name of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen before even anything is mentioned, because I know his haqiqah and what he stood for, tears begins to overflow from my eye. That's emotional Karbala. But we've got revolutionary Karbala, whereby what I do, I don't necessarily cry, but I try to take practical lessons. There is a relationship between the two. They complement each other. Because there are people, they say, you know what, I can't cry in front of people. No, this is a sign of weakness. I cannot cry. There are people, they hear the Masaib of Al-Bayt, they've got tears, but they try to hold the tears. They suppress the tears. Don't do that. Let it flow. Let it flow. If it doesn't come, it doesn't come. But when the tears is to come, let it flow. Whether young or old, there is nothing to shy away from. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why these tears are very important. And Karbala, we need tears. Not only the revolutionary or the intellectual side of it. Number 1 is Quran. The ayah I quoted earlier on. Surah At-Tawbah, verse 82. Allah makes it crystal clear. فَلْيَدْعَقُوا قَلِيلًا وَلْيَبْقُوا كَثِيرًا جَزَاءً بِمَا كَانُوا يَكْسِبُونَ. Let them laugh a little, but let them cry more. You know why? Because there were these people, when Prophet invited them, come, let's go and build Islam. They didn't want to go. So Prophet left with those who wanted to follow Prophet. Then they remained in town and they started laughing, chilling, enjoying, celebrating. Allah says to them, this happiness doesn't mean something natural in your life, but rather laugh little and cry more is better for you. Quran tells us, cry more. Cry more simply means what? Be serious about life. Cry more simply means what? There are 2 ways of reading life from the Islamic perspective. One way is to consider this dunya the aim. The other way is to consider this dunya means to the aim. Let me put it in Farsi and Urdu. One aim is to consider this dunya gayat. But the other aim is to consider this dunya wasila to gaya. Anyone who considers this dunya means to the aim will be serious. Being serious means what? Shedding tears. That's very, very important, my dear brothers and sisters. Now look at history. Wallah, I want you to listen to this very carefully, brothers and sisters. Azizan Muhtaram. You know our beloved Prophet Mohammed, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Another salawat, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala. Salawat, inshallah. I don't know whether you made your own research. I made my research in this regard. Prophet cried for Hussein 18 times in his life before he died. 18. And I'm going to give you an example. Some said not less than 18. Some said even more. Look at some of the places Prophet cried for Hussein. So that you appreciate when you cry. Number one, the day Imam Hussein was born. You know, when a child is born, everybody's celebrating. Shadi, Jashan. But Prophet, when he took Hussein, baby Fatima gave him Hussein, tears began to overflow from the eyes of Prophet. That's the first gum bayan Prophet did. Look at number 2, please. When baby Fatima was breastfeeding Imam al-Hussein. As she was breastfeeding, Prophet was crying. Number 3, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam became 1 year old, Prophet shed tears. Why? Because he would remember, Jibreel would tell him, this your grandson will be butchered on the plains of Karbala. Prophet cried. Go forward. Prophet cried over what will happen to Hussein in the house of Salma 7 times. Go forward. Prophet cried and lamented over the tragedy of Karbala years before Karbala in the house of Aisha 3 times. Prophet cried in the house of Imam Ali 1 time, in the house of Fadl 1 time, in his own room 1 time. He did also amongst his companions 3 times. Prophet lamented over what will happen to Imam al-Hussein. So therefore these tears are sunnah, are the tradition of our beloved Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. You go to Mustadrak al-Hakim al-Sahihain. It's a Sunni book. He narrates 2 narrations when it comes to Prophet crying over what will happen to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. One, he said Prophet gave that turba, that haq, to Salama. And he said to Salama, my son Hussein will be butchered on this turba. Prophet cried and Salama cried. The other narration, Hakim narrates that one day Hussein was coming while Prophet was with his companions. Prophet came, he held Hussein, and tears began to overflow from the eyes of our beloved Prophet. And he said to them, this my son, he will be butchered at a place called Karbala. Our beloved Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, after the battle of Siffin, while on his way home, they passed by Karbala, and Imam Ali stopped there, and he said, this is a place where men will be butchered and chopped off. And Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam began to cry. And hence you find traditions from Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam and Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Famous tradition, man jalasa majlisan yuhya fihi amruna lam yamut qalbuhu yawma tamutul qulub. Whoever attends a gathering where there is the dhikr of Ahl al-Bayt, where the affairs of Ahl al-Bayt is being given life, the heart of that person will not be dead on a day when all hearts will be dead. And we have another tradition from Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Whoever remembers what happens to us and tears drops from his or her eyes, his sins will be forgiven by Allah. So this is very important. It's the sunnah of our beloved Prophet and Ahlul Bayt. So when someone comes and tells me, you know what, Shias like crying too much, and naturally human beings are inclined to happiness and not sadness, I said, you are wrong. Naturally human beings are inclined to beauty. Sometimes sadness may be a manifestation of beauty, and sometimes happiness may be a manifestation of beauty. Can be mazhari jamal, sadness or happiness. So if someone tells me, you cry too much, you always sad, this is not human inclination, I say, no, you are wrong. Human inclination is to beauty and not either sadness or happiness. Some said, no, she asked, why you too sad? Sadness distracts creativity in people's life. I said, no, you are not right. You are not right. Sadness or happiness do not distract creativity in life. You know what brings creativity in life? Brothers and sisters, it's one thing. Effort and determination. It makes you creative. So that's number 2. The last one is the most important one. Actual tears and emotional tears in the life of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen. Here, we need to reflect, all of us. Let's do a bit of tadabbur here. We mentioned earlier on, remember, if there is one Imam who cried more than any other Imam, any other individual ever created by Allah, when it comes to the tragedy of Karbala, it's Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen. One narration says, you know it, he lamented for 20 years. You know why? I want you to think with me. You know, Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen known only one person in his life, and that is Hussein. When he was born, he lost his mother. Sharbanu, he lost her. He lost the mother when he was young. So the one and only he knew is Sayyidu Shuhada, Salamullah alayh. Imam Hussein was the mother and Imam Hussein was the father. And he witnessed Karbala right from the beginning up until the end of Karbala. So when we examine the life of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayh, you are requested, brothers, inshallah, come a bit forward. You can come here on top. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Come here, come here. Because people are struggling, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Jazakallah. Imam alayhi salam cried a lot. Last night we mentioned in the Masaib, and you know the Masaib very well, all of you. You know, when they would bring food to Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, this is a preamble before I mention the last lesson. Food will be sitting next to him. Tears would be overflowing from his eyes. By the time people would realize, drops of his tears are in the food. Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen alayhi salam narration says, he would come across a butcher, you know very well, and would say to him, do you offer water to this animal? He said, yes. While doing so, he was crying. He said, because they denied my father water. I said, Ya Sayyidu Sajidin, you know better than all of us. They did not even deny Hussein only water. They denied baby Asgar water. Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen alayhi salam would come across a funeral undertaker, isn't it? Said, oh man, when I die, will you bury me? Said, of course, everybody deserves to be buried. While asking this question, he was crying. Said, you know, they left the body of my father for 3 days. But I said, Zayn-Al-Abideen, they mutilated the body. On the day of the 11th, in the morning they came, they sorted all the bodies of their loved ones, the enemies. And they left the bodies of Imam al-Hussein and that of his companions. Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen is witness to this. When they were taking them to Kufa, they put him on a chain without saddle on a camel. He was crying. Now question. What's the philosophy of the crying of Imams? This is where I want you to take practical lessons, take it back home and reflect. Discuss with your family, discuss with your friends. It's very important. This is the most important part of my tonight lecture. There are 2 types of tears. Some said, the two types, they said is regret tears and purposeful tears. Look at this, very, very, very important, this one. Sometimes you cry, not because you want to cry, but you regret it, you feel remorseful. Why did I do this? I failed the exams. Why didn't I study? So you're regretting, but you're crying. It's okay. Why not cry? It's okay. Don't be ashamed of crying. Cry. Don't worry. Cry. But there is another tears they call purposeful tears. I'm crying not because I regret. And I'm crying because I am determined to bring a positive change in my life. Now, some scholars, that is what I subscribe more. They said we have actual tears and we have emotional tears. What is emotional tears? Buka infiali they call. No, I'm being emotional for what is happening, then I cry. Why not? I hear about Imam Hussein, I cry. I hear about Ali al-Akbar, I cry. That's good, it's okay. You'll be rewarded one way or the other as per the traditions we quoted earlier on. But there is another one they call actual tears. What is actual tears? Intended tears. The tears that comes out of my eyes every night of Muharram and Safar has an aim. I don't cry just for the sake of crying. No. Number one, I cry because I truly understand what happened. But no, number two, I am crying because I want to make changes in my life. There is no point. You cry, and salat time you don't do salah. Barabar. You love Imam Hussein? When I say Shimmer sat on the chest of Imam Hussein, you cry. But why salat you don't pray? Tell me why. It means your tears is false tears. It's not true tears. These tears, they are means of positive change. And I'll tell you the tears of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, what it means. But I'm emphasizing on this before I mention what those tears means. So that when I and you cry over any tragedy of Al-Bayt, it should be intended. Sometimes, my dear brother, I go to a Majalis or my father, we cry. But when I go outside there, I'm hypocrite. Munafiq. Double standard. It means you are wasting our time. It means on the day of Qiyamah, Imam Hussein will be here, you will be there. You will not come Nazdik close to Imam al-Hussein. Our tears over the tragedies of Al-Bayt must be followed by solid positive actions. It starts with me, speaker. If I preach and I cry and I make people cry and I go out there and my akhlaq is bankrupt, all this becomes adhab for me on the day of Qiyamah. Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen did not cry for the sake of crying. He cried for the following reasons. Now I'm going to give you the reasons. Number one, they call it is for the hadaf of tarbawi. Kindly pay attention to this. What is tarbawi? Not tarbiyah. We'll come to that later. He cried a lot because he wanted to teach I and you. You can only be successful in life when you are emotionally attached to things. There are two types of attachment: intellectual attachment and emotional attachment. Intellectual attachment with your intellect, emotional attachment with your heart, with your soul. Anyone to achieve success, Habibi, Mahdi, is to be attached to something emotionally and intellectually. Brother, all of us sitting here, and I have no doubt in what I'm going to say, we are intellectually attached to Namaz Shab, but few are emotionally attached to it. Intellectual attachment means what? I know it is good, it is right. That's what it means to be intellectually. I know about. You're not gonna tell me anything, bro. I know about this, man. But you know why we don't do? Because we are not emotionally attached to it. Those who are intellectually and emotionally attached, they wake up. No, let me give you a simple example. Guna. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you this is haram. This is haram. You all know what is haram. You know what is halal, bro. We all know Allah. When Maulana said it's haram, it's just reminding you. Everybody know. You go in a program, it's music haram, halal. Even the person who's asking you knows the answer. But it just, Maulana. People know. It's shaking the hand of no haram. Somebody come share Maulana at work. This woman come, I shake your hand. Is it halala? You know the answer, bro. You know. You know, people just, they ask you to pass time sometimes. Or they ask you because they want to hear what they want to hear from you. Unfortunately, I don't have the company of fatwa, so I can't issue. Al-Muhim, you know why we commit sins? Although we know it's haram. When I say we know it's haram, we are intellectually attached that it's sin. But the reason why we do, because emotionally we don't know it. So Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen alayhi salam cried, lamented, mourned to teach I and you to take your life in terms of success to the next level. You need to be emotionally and intellectually attached to things. That's why he would cry. He taught so many things. Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, if you look at his legacy, we'll never finish talking about his legacy in this world. Wallahi al-azim. Solid legacies, man. Is it dua? Is it hukuk of people? So many stuff. But he cried a lot. To say, you know what? Don't deprive your emotions from being exercised. Sometimes men who are married, they are good at that. Some, I'm not saying all. When women start to cry, say, you see, you are too emotional. You cry too much. But that's good. You may not be that highly emotional. That's why Allah says you come together. You bring that form of rigidity a little bit. She bring that form of emotion together. And then you grow and you build civilization. Otherwise, you go alone, finish. Woman go alone, finish. That's why they said husband and wife, they are one single existence. Because you complement each other. So that's the first thing Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen teaches us. So when you cry every night, or on any other occasions of Ahlul Bayt, Salamullah alayhim ajma'in, remember, you need to activate your emotions. That's number one. Let's go number two reason why Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen cried a lot. And you and I, when we cry, we should ensure that this manifests in our lives. Islah, reformation, reform. Tagir. It's very important. As I give examples, you are crying. Are you reformed? Are you a changed person after first 12th night of Muharram? Can you put your hand on heart to say, you know what? This year Muharram, mashallah, the Majlis changed me. 12th night is over. We're clocking Arba'in now. Have you changed? Nobody's perfect. There must be something in our life that needs changing. After crying for 12th night, have you changed? Imam said, إنما خرج لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي وإني آمر بالمعروف وأنا عن المنكر وأسير بسيرة جدي رسول الله. So that's the second aim of Imam's tears. Change. So I'm crying my Shia, not necessarily for my sake. It's for you. You are an elderly Shia. You are youth Shia. You are young Shia. You need to change. And if you look at Karbala, majority of the companions of Imam Hussein were youth. To show to I and you, anyone who's youth here, many youth here, when I attend this majalis, I must change. I must change. Youth in Karbala. That's number 2. Number 3, you know why Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen cried? Media outlets. He wanted to expose the mission of Hussein to the world. So when you do Ya Hussein, you cry. One of the reasons is to create awareness, Habibi. Don't become a source for people to attack Shias. Become a source for people to like Shias. It's not my wajib to make somebody Shia, but it's my wajib to share the little I know about Shias with people. Becoming is in the hand of Allah. So Imam cried. It's a media outlet, media, to create awareness. That's number 3. Look at number 4. Aim of Imam's tears. And we should take this as lessons. Imam wanted to say, when you cry, the greatness of your tears depend on who you are crying for. Why are you crying, bro? No, because my exams wasn't well. So it means the exams is great, isn't it? You get a point? Sometimes you cry, isn't it? Not really, eh? But sometimes. Not over what you cry? Over Hussein. MashaAllah, the Turkey of Karachi. But whatever you cry for is great. It means it's important in your life. You agree? Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, who did he cry for? He cried for Hussein. It means Hussein is great. That's why he cried. So when you sit under any member, when the tears comes out, note the greatness of the one you are crying for. This is what they call ta'limi. It's education for us. That you know what? These tears is not for anyone, it's for Hussein. So I'm going to follow the footsteps of Hussein. I'm going to try. And I give you 2 examples, then we flow into the Masa'ib. There's this young fellow, youth, young, in Karbala. Some of the narrators did not mention his name. Some said there are speculations about his name. Al-Muhim, he was youth, like some of our sons here and daughters. His father got killed. And the mom took the armor of the father and she put on the child. And she said to him, go to Hussein for permission to go and fight. He got there. Imam Hussein said to him, no, go stay behind, look after your mother. He said, no, my mother asked me to come. Even the armor was too big for him. But when he came out, you know what he says? Amiri Hussein wa ni'mal amir. My master, my king was Hussein. And this king is blessing. It's a blessing. He said, this king is the comfort of my eyes and soul. And his father and mother are Ali and Fatima. Then he said, oh people, do you know someone like Hussein? What I'm trying to say is that the tears he had over Hussein, alayhi salam, helped him to follow the footsteps of Hussein. Look at the mother of Wahab al-Kalbi. Mother of Wahab. That lady was the first woman Shahida in Karbala. They killed Wahab, Christian, who became Muslim and died alongside Imam al-Hussein. When they killed Wahab, you know what they did? They took the head of Wahab and threw to the mother. The mother walked to the head and she placed her hand on the head. She said, if Allah gives me 20 of these head, I will be proud to give it back to Hussein. So this is the change. we are all expected to achieve when we mourn and attend this Majalis of Hussein. So let this sink in your minds. Allah will never change your conditions until you change what is in your heart. Let Hussein inspire us to change. Let's go to the life of Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen alayhi salam and remember a few lines of the masa'ib of this great Imam. I and you know very well, Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen alayhi salam, from Karbala to Kufa and from Kufa to Sham, they chained the Imam. When they were about to enter Sham, Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen looked, one narration says, look at Kulthum. One narration said, no, he looked at the members of Ahlul Bayt and he said to them, can you give me a piece of cloth? So they asked him, oh Zayn-Al-Abideen, why are you asking for a piece of cloth? He said, because I want to place this cloth between my neck and the chain. They asked him why. He said, because the chain has been killing me since Karbala. I want to just put it a little bit here to have a bit of warmth. Allahu Akbar. Now narration tells us, mu'mineen and mu'minat, when Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen returned to Karbala with the head of Imam Al-Husayn alayhi salam, you remember very well, narration says, on the day of Arba'in, he came back with the head to join the head with the body of Imam Al-Husayn. But when he came to join, he heard the voice coming. What was the voice? The voice said, place the infant baby on my chest. And then the voice says, place Akbar by my feet. Allahu Akbar. I said, Ya Abu Abdullah, why place the infant on your chest? He said to Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen alayhi salam, for us it's simply because the catalogue of the baby was the chest of Imam al-Husayn. Allahu Akbar. You know, Mukhtar beautifully explained this. When Mukhtar got hold of Harmala, he asked Harmala, what did you do on the 10th day of Muharram? Harmala said, Mukhtar, I had 7 targets. 4 targets, I achieved success. But 3 targets, I did not achieve any success. Mukhtar asked Harmala, tell me what are the 4 successful targets? He said, my first target, when Abbas was struggling. Allahu Akbar. Abbas was struggling. He said, when Abbas was falling on the ground, I struck my arrow to the right eye of Abbas. Allahu Akbar. Harmala said, I struck that arrow straight to the eye. And that is why when Abu Abdullah alayhi salam walked towards the body of Abbas, Abbas could not see. Why? Because the blood blocked the eye of Abbas. Then Mukhtar asked Harmala, what was your second successful arrow? Allahu Akbar. You know what he said to him? He said, you know, they showered Hussein with arrows. This is some scholars narrate, not me. That when Hussein was on the ground, he was like a hedgehog. But then they heard a voice. I will not allow you to kill my uncle until you kill me. It was the voice of Abdullah, the son of Imam al-Hassan. What happened? Abdullah went and placed his body next to the body of Imam al-Hussein. Harmala said to Mukhtar, you know what I did? I shocked the right arm of Abdullah. Meaning he struck the arrow on the right arm of Abdullah. That marked the end of the life of Abdullah. But now look at the third arrow. Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen, when he came, Abu Abdullah said to him, place the infant on my chest. Harmala said, I saw Hussein holding the infant baby. Some books that I read, they said, Harmala, when it comes to baby Asghar, you know, the sword or the arrow he used, they used to use to cut camel neck. Said, I saw Hussein holding the baby, pleading for water. Then I struck my arrow to the neck of the baby. You know what scholars describe it? They said the baby flapped his hand like the way bird flap his wing. Baby, 6-month-old baby. Then he asked Harmala, what was your last successful arrow? Allahu Akbar. He said, my last successful arrow was the arrow that came to the forehead of Hussein. Allahu Akbar. It came to the forehead of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And that was the arrow which brought Hussein on the ground. And they came and kicked the body of Hussein. They came and ridiculed the lips of Hussein. You know, last narration I mentioned and then we do Ma'tam. Allahu Akbar. They killed Imam al-Hussein. But Imam al-Rida said they didn't kill him. They slaughtered Hussein. Because when somebody is killed, he dies instantly. But when you slaughter someone, it takes him pains upon pain before the person dies. Now, Sayyidah Zainab was standing at Tal Zainabiyah. And Bibi Sakina was standing there. She saw Zuljinan coming back. She went and held the leg of Zuljinan. Where is my father? Show my father to me. Then Sayyidah Zainab walked to Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen. Tell me what happened to my brother Hussein. Imam Zayn-Al-Abideen would say, I saw them breaking the bones of my father. Ala la'natullah ala al-qawm al-zalimin. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Wa saya'lamu alladhina zalamu ala Mohammed أي منقلب ينقلبون معتم الحسين يا حسين يا